How do you let go and surrender to the universe or to God when it feels like it's going to break your soul? How do you do that? This is a question that I had asked in my community, or in actually the channel here on Instagram, and it got upvoted the most. And people want to know, how do you let go and fully trust when it feels like it'll break your soul? Now, the first thing to understand is it's not going to break your soul. It's the ego that's asking the question. The ego is what wants control. Think about that for a minute. That's what control and attachment is. If the ego is attached, the belief is that the ego then can be in control and it can stay in familiar energy. It's the ego that freaks out and that wants to control reality. In an even deeper way, I made a video about this recently, talking about somebody that was asking about manifestation. I used to be so good at manifesting, and now I feel blocks and I can't manifest what I want. And the advice that I had was showing a new perspective when it comes to the idea of manifesting, which has to do with surrendering to God. Letting go. When we let go of attachment and control and even desire, those things come, but not from lack. And most people are trying to create from lack. So one thing for me that's really transformed my life is I no longer make manifestation content. And one of the reasons is because it's changed my life to let go of trying to control so much of reality. And the advice for that woman, it was at a live event that I did here in LA recently. The advice for her was, what got you here won't get you there. That was the advice, because and that brought some peace to her, because then she realized, oh, maybe there's a new way to go about this process. Yeah, letting go, exactly. And for those of you that don't know, letting go is one of the most powerful processes that can help you to really become free. And it's so simple. All you do with the letting go technique, you want to know what it is? It's so simple. It'll transform your life too. All you do is you let the emotion that's coming up be there. You let it be there. You don't try to control it. You let it be there. You welcome it. You observe it. What sensations are coming up? You feel it. And then you can make the choice to let it go. But to let it go, you must first let it be. Which is very counterintuitive, because most people that come to these live calls or that come to live events, they're trying to change how they feel. This is interesting, right? So the advice that I normally have is not, okay, I feel this way and I want to get rid of this feeling. How do I get rid of it? And the answer is, okay, let's mask it over here. Let's do this thing over here. Let's look into the childhood stuff over here, and let's avoid this feeling over here, and let's fix it. And what we end up doing is creating resistance, because we're also infusing the paradox that what I'm feeling right now is not good, and when we resist, we persist. I'm back to whispering again. I'm just trying to break you free. You can break free right now. Every moment's a new moment. Every moment's a new moment. What story do you have as to why you need to stay attached? What story do you have? What's your story? Well, I've had this attachment for a very long time. I've had this attachment since I was young. It's normal. It's familiar. If you want to break free and let go and surrender to God, it's going to require a leap of faith of letting go of the ego's desire to control, to have it all figured out. And when you allow something greater than you, like God or the divine, to flow through, it completely shifts the game. So this is where you also become aware of the difference between survival mode and like love. Because when people talk about love languages, we talked about this a few days ago. Love languages. They say, my love language is like acts of service. I like to give. Well, there can be a toxic side of that, because if giving is not just because it's like I want to give, which a lot of times people that are they able to actually also receive? A lot of times givers are like overgivers are horrible receivers. But they say, I like to give. But if you're overgiving, it might be connected to survival mode. The more I give, the more I ease tension in the family. The more I give, the more safe I feel. So giving is a survival thing. So is survival love? Instead of calling it love language, it's validation language. How do I feel safe in the present moment? So a lot of people have that of, they might be tuned to dysregulation. Their nervous system may be tuned to toxic behaviors or toxic people, not realizing that part of it feels familiar. So if you have questions about this, by the way, you can put it in the Q&A section. And I'll be answering some questions while we're here. You know, I've been going live recently more often. One thing that I realize is the more I show up with you and I embrace the unknown, which, by the way, the more I lean into the unknown when it comes to creating content, in this last live LA event that I did, normally the ego is the part of myself that wants to control and make sure that I always say the right thing and that I have things I want to talk about at live events. Because when I run a live event, it'll be like 6 hours a day of basically live coaching and many times no planned material whatsoever. But sometimes what happens is my ego is like, you want to have some things written down and this and this and this you want to talk about. And then there's also an attachment to trying to get great content, which is an agenda, which creates control, which creates resistance. This last live event that I did in LA, I purposely didn't write down anything. I showed up and just started the whole live event with no planned material whatsoever. It was like a 7-hour day of speaking or 6-hour day of speaking. And I just wanted to wire in surrendering to that unknown energy. The first time I did that, it was scary. I went through, if I think about my journey of live events and speaking at live events, I would almost allow no time for the unknown years ago. A few years ago when I started running live events, I would speak on stage. That was my time. I had some things I would talk about. Sometimes I'd get into just a flow state and whatever would come through. But engaging with the crowd and the audience was something that I would minimally do, because what if somebody asks a certain question or has a certain response or reaction and I don't know in the moment what to do? And that was the fear. And then what happened is a few years ago, I was like, you know what? What happened was a few years ago, well, this is funny. A few years ago, I then would run live events with a friend of mine, and then I was like, okay, to have some level of control, I'll bring that friend of mine on stage as well, and we will answer questions. So if I don't know the answer to a certain question, he's there, and we could both figure it out. That felt safe. So then what happened is he came, we did this one live, in this 2-day live event, there was one 2-hour segment that was Q&A, where there was no planned material whatsoever, and it was just bouncing off the crowd. And it was my favorite part of the whole live event, was the Q&A, with no planned content. So then what I realized is, oh, actually, I like this. And then the next live event, it was just me. I was like, I'm going to take the leap. It's just going to be me answering questions. Me tapping into the energy. Then I realized I loved that. And then every event since then, up until about 4 events ago or something, I decided that I was going to do what's called hot seat coaching, bring people up to the stage, coach them, not knowing anything about what their challenges are, and just work with them. And what I have found is the more I surrender to the unknown, and the more I have a genuine intention to, in a way, reflect things back to people, reflect back their power, the more that happens. And it's not, see, here's the thing. I don't have to trust my ego at all. I just let go and allow something greater to flow through. I'm trusting the divine. I'm trusting God. I'm trusting the space. So when people say, how do I let go and surrender to the divine when it's going to break my soul? It can't break your soul. It can't. It can only break your ego. And your ego wants to control, and your ego is what's afraid of messing it up. Your ego is what's afraid of not being perfect. Your ego is afraid of what other people think. It's your ego that creates the resistance. But when you allow yourself to trust something greater than the ego, that's where magic can happen. That's where magic can happen. I'm whispering again. These lives are a mixture of me speaking and whispering. So there's a certain level of trust that you develop, not in just yourself, not like when I say yourself, like you want to trust yourself. I'm not talking about the self that is I'm not talking about just the ego. I'm talking about the self with a capital S. That is the greater aspect of yourself that includes the divine. And when you can trust the divine, how can you break your soul by letting go? You're afraid you're going to break your soul. No, you're going to break the ego. If you think about it, it's like the shell of the ego that's trying to control, that will break. Guess what? That's a good thing. If that breaks, you allow yourself to become more free. What if the very emotion you've been avoiding feeling by trying to control reality is the medicine to the next level of growth for you? What if? Just saying. What if it is? What if you don't have to have it all figured out? What if the ego's desire to control is simply the ego's desire to stay in familiar energy, and because you've been buying into that and just listening to that as your God, you've been staying trapped in that energy. I talked in a recent live event how a lot of times when we really, really care what people think, we make them, in a way, our God. We make them the authority that we're trying to prove ourselves to. And it's only because we want validation from them because we're not finding deeper sense of love from the divine or God or our soul. So does that make sense? Let's see. Okay. Someone says, how do you let go? My question is, how do you hold on? How do you stay attached? How do you do it? Can someone explain to me how you stay attached? What do you do to stay attached? Well, first thing what you do is you take an idea, or you take a person or a thing and you attribute a meaning to it, and then you tell yourself that that meaning or that thing is something that you need, and then what will you do to keep that? Whether it's an attachment to what people think, you're attached to being seen as good, you're attached to them liking you, you're attached to, it's an abstract thing sometimes, or you're attached to a person, trying to control them. If you do what I want you to do, I can then feel good about myself. I'm going to put these great demands on reality. And that's kind of what attachment is. It's kind of going around and demanding reality adhere to you so that you can feel different on the inside. But you see, the breakthrough and the freedom comes from breaking that construct. So to let go, remember, it's those simple steps we were talking about. Become aware and welcome in the sensations that come up. Let them be there, welcome them in, and then let them go. Experience it fully. Stop avoiding that which is coming up. It's such a paradox. It's a paradox. The more you don't need to control, that's funny, right? The more you don't need to control, the more in control you'll feel. Even if you feel out of control, you're controlling that. Think about that. Think about that. Even if you feel out of control, you are controlling that with your definition. Interesting, right? Paradox. So if you want to feel more in control, if you feel like you doubt and you can't trust, you're trusting in doubt. Paradox. Think about that. You're using your consciousness to create reality in a way that feels familiar. But you can also use your consciousness and these language patterns to work for you. Does that make sense? It's so interesting. It's like we try to limit ourselves because that feels familiar, so we find ways of using language to do so. And part of that is like, they're all excuses and ways for not taking responsibility. So when we say, I'm out of control, we're creating the sensation of being out of control by controlling it, but then saying we're out of control. Isn't that interesting? We say, I doubt or I can't trust. But you're trusting that you doubt and that you can't trust. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny if you let it be funny. Let's see. Is it normal to not know what I want to do with my life? Who's to say that you need to know in this moment right now what you want to do with your life? If you let it be okay that you don't know what you want to do with your life right now in the present moment, and you maybe even let go of having to, you probably feel lost because you believe you need to figure it all out right now. And a lot of the work that I do is about becoming aware of these emotions and letting yourself feel these emotions. If you're okay whether this emotion is there or not, whether this lack of clarity is there or not, and instead of trying to avoid it, because it's like resistance is put into the space into your field, because it's like, I want to control, I want this to go away, and if this could go away, then I could feel better. If you let yourself feel that, what you might find is the resistance goes away, and then you're in the right place at the right time. You see a certain book that reflects something back to you, and you get new reflection. A lot of times people will say, I'm stuck. And the thing that really keeps them stuck is their belief that they are stuck. You might say, I'm feeling lost. You believe you're lost. Part of it is your beliefs create reality. Now, is it normal to not know what I want to do with my life? And when you say that you're asking, is it normal? What is the attachment to being normal? Or is what you need to hear simply that it's okay? It's okay. It's okay not to know what you want to do with your life. Who says you have to figure it all right now? And if you let it be okay that you don't know, you might find you reduce resistance, and then you get more clarity. Clarity comes from energy. Clarity comes from presence. And when we're trying to control and not feel certain emotions, we're out of the present moment, energetically trying to control. The funny thing is in your energy field right now is the information of what would excite you in your life. It's literally invisible due to the unprocessed emotion of wanting to control it and of feeling lost. And if you let yourself feel it, and you let it be okay that it's there, and you welcome it, and you experience it fully, you can then make the choice to let it go, and it's okay whether it comes back or not, because you don't need to control. Guess what ends up happening? You reduce resistance, and in your field, you may become aware of it. It's all in the field. I know it sounds like a spiritual woo-woo idea, but in your field right now, there's a lot of information. And the consistent thoughts you think and the consistent emotions you feel fill up your energy field. And then the people you surround yourself with the most, they have thoughts and energy in their field, and you are literally rubbing up against them. And when you rub up against them and you surround yourself with certain people, that energy will rub off on you. And then also, depending on the momentum of your energy and whether you're in your own frame or not, you will also influence other people. It can be a positive thing. And one of the things that really influences people in a powerful way is a paradox again, because the more you don't need to control, and the more you don't have an agenda, and the more you are just being, the more you allow other people to be themselves, and the less you're trying to control, the less resistance you're infusing on other people. You ever notice that the people that are the most magnetic and attractive are the people that don't have an agenda or aren't trying to control what you think of them? It's like if you were to dislike them, they're like, okay, you can think whatever you want. You're free to think what you want. Is it more attractive if someone is like letting you come to your own conclusion or trying to control it? This is also the paradox, by the way, with people who want to feel chosen. Because they have the rule that they want other people to choose them, they infuse resistance. And it's, in a way, having an agenda. And that agenda blocks people from just naturally realizing it themselves. You literally are not letting other people choose you because you're trying to make them choose you, which is an agenda, so they can't choose you because you're also resisting the realization of it. Just like right now, if you were to go to a store and you go shopping, there's a whole bunch of salespeople there. There's like you go to a used car sales place, and the guy really wants to sell you a car, and the more he forces it, the more it repels you. The more he demands you buy, the more you don't want to buy. There's an agenda. But somebody that genuinely wants to help you is someone you are glad to work with. Interesting, right? It's all energy. And I'm back to whispering. So, feel those emotions, and it's okay to feel that. How do we rebalance ourselves when we feel out of alignment? How do we rebalance ourselves? So when you feel out of alignment, you are aware that you are no longer in alignment. So awareness is the first step. First off, also, same thing as the last time. Let it be okay to fall out of alignment. Do you see a theme here with the answers to these questions? If we say, I'm out of alignment, it is not okay that I'm out of alignment, I must get back into alignment, you create resistance. But if you let it be okay, whether you're in alignment or out of alignment, what will happen is you focus more on the process, and then you just focus on your state. And sometimes out of alignment makes in alignment that much better. Like when I was in Costa Rica, a friend of mine and I went surfing basically almost every day we were out there. And the first couple days we went out there, incredible waves. It was so much fun. The waves were perfect. It was easy to get out there. It was a bit of a workout, but it was so much fun. Caught some epic waves. There's one wave we caught where we were both riding at the same time and we like high-fived each other. Cheesy, but it was fun. It was epic. And then like 2 days later we went and the waves were super choppy. We're like, And we still got in the water. It was still like meditation. It was still somewhat fun, but not nearly as good as the couple days before. But one thing that happened is we still had some fun. We were like, oh, the other day was awesome, was better, but whatever. And then we went again, and there was another awesome day. Incredible. Really great waves, great weather. Everything was perfect. And then we went like 2 or 3 other times, and it was like choppy. There was just a mix. Some days were really in alignment, amazing waves, and some days were not so much. But those days that weren't so much made us appreciate the days that were in alignment, that had great waves. So it's all contrast anyways. I shared this before. This will sound like another cheesy example, but there's these electrolyte, like sparkling water drinks that I get, and there's this pack that it comes in. It comes with citrus lime flavor, watermelon, grapefruit, and black cherry. There's like no sugar or anything. It's just like salt, and I love these drinks. When I get the variety pack, I don't like the citrus. Not that I don't like it, I just don't care for it. I don't want to drink the citrus. But you want to know what I realized? Is when I drink the citrus, even though I don't like it as much, it makes the watermelon that much better, which is my favorite. And then eventually what I realized is I just like the watermelon the best. It's the best. So what I did is I bought a whole pack, like 3 packs of watermelon. And then you want to know what happened? What do you think happened? I bet you guys figure it out. Day 1, watermelon. Day 2, watermelon. Day 3, watermelon. This is awesome. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, watermelon. And eventually I was like, I kind of crave some of the other flavors. Actually, the citrus is necessary to make the watermelon even better. Isn't this it's an interesting perspective, but what if the citrus is necessary to make the watermelon better? What if the days you're out of alignment are meant to make when you're in alignment better, but then you don't resist being out of alignment, and then you're like, I need to control being out of alignment. How do I get out of... And you could say, okay, that's what you need. You're going to change your state. Make your move. Yes. Make your move. Yes. Make your move. Yes, I'm changing my state. I feel great. It can work too. For those of you that have been to a Tony Robbins event, it's kind of what happens. At multiple times during the day, there's this thing where it's like, make the move, yes. And you make this anchored move, and you're like, yes, yes. By the end of the event, you're just like, you're so freaking just wired up. Yeah. So do you see the answer to a lot of these questions? Actually embrace the emotions you feel. Embrace them. I'm going to whisper, and you're going to embrace your emotions. Yeah. Let's see. Some people were asking in a separate thing. We're asking in a separate thread. Remember the question that was asked the most was like, how do I let go and surrender without breaking my soul? And that's what I've been answering during this live. Another question was like, how do I feel safe inside of my own body? And the interesting thing with feeling safe is that feeling safe, what does the feeling of feeling safe actually mean? Because when we say I feel safe, is safe an emotion? When we think of shame, fear, guilt, anger, like love, joy, peace, is one of those like safe? Safe is a concept. I think really what we're looking for is regulating or co-regulating our bodies. And I'll tell you what, you are the most magnetic version of you when your nervous system is regulated. You are the most magnetic version of you when you begin to regulate, meet people you can co-regulate with, and you begin to be present with yourself. You are the most magnetic version of you when you don't have an agenda and you're not trying to control people, reality, what people think of you. You're more magnetic. When you begin co-regulating yourself or regulating with yourself, you're not looking for other things to regulate your emotions, like Instagram likes, what people think, how people respond. So I think the real question here with feeling safe is learning how to regulate your emotions, or even how to create mind and heart coherence. Mind and heart coherence is very powerful. So feeling safe inside of your body, many of you may know I teach something called the frame technique, or what you do is you feel the separation between you and the people that you're around, you and the walls the room that you're in. And as you put the focus on the separation, you can begin to feel like the brim of your body versus outer environment. It's something called subject-object. Subject and object, learning how to differentiate those. Because when you grow up, if you believed it was your responsibility to fix other people in your family or to fix the tension in your family, you literally see everything else as an extension of you. So those people's emotions are your responsibility. The tension of the family is yours because you see it as an extension of you, because that subject-object individuation has not been established. So part of this is around, literally the frame technique is feeling the separation between you and someone else, the space. Doesn't mean you can't still be connected to them, by the way. It just means that you focus on the space in between you, and you find that then you might start to feel different inside of your body. And when you start feeling, here's the paradox, when you start feeling safe inside of your body, emotions and negative emotions may come up, which is interesting, right? You're like, I'm doing the inner work, and now I feel negative emotions. Well, when you feel safe is when actually you start to give yourself permission to process. Like, for example, if a gazelle is being chased by a cheetah or a lion or something, it's like running away. What'll happen is it's in fight or flight, it's releasing a crazy amount of adrenaline, cortisol, and all these emotions, or all these energies, and then, let's say it gets away. What happens is right before the gazelle goes back into the herd, where it feels safe, it will spaz the heck out. It will shake, and it will shake all the trauma out of its body so that it doesn't carry that trauma back in the herd. So what is happening is actually as the gazelle starts to feel more safe in the herd, stuff comes up. It shakes it out. And as it's shaking it out, it then reemerges back. So the reason I use that analogy is because sometimes as you're doing the inner work, you might say, well, I'm doing the inner work, I'm feeling inside my body, but now negative emotions coming up. Instead, I'm going to go numb myself over here. I'm going to go dopamine myself out with television and all this stuff. No, let yourself feel it. That's just you as the gazelle shaking it out because now you feel safe. Now you feel safe. Does that make sense? So you'll see themes during this whole live call, right? Like feel the things you're trying to control in reality so that you can feel differently. If you instead embrace, let those emotions be there, welcome them, then you can let them go. And if you're good either way, whether they're there or not, that's where real freedom is. You're not avoiding and resisting. Then you can choose something new. But you're not choosing to control, like from trying to control. You're choosing because you just choose something else. Does that make sense? Let's see. Someone says, I just left an abusive relationship. I believe this one was put on my path to test my new boundaries and work. I've had spent the previous 4 years on myself. This was not an easy choice and definitely feel unaligned, but my God, I feel aligned, if that makes sense. I get it. And congratulations. If you left an abusive relationship and you're aware that that was put on your path to test your boundaries, and eventually you woke up to this and you took your power back. So give yourself credit for that. People ask themselves a lot, why do I attract certain people in my life? Why do I attract a very specific archetype over and over again? The faces change, but the energy stays the same. Why? What does that person represent as a pattern? And what is the thing for you to learn with that pattern? The thing to learn might be to stand up for yourself, to not take on other people's stuff. It may be to become aware of why you are attracted to that. To not need to fix people. And a recent YouTube video that came out was from a LA live event, and there was this woman that was asking. Anytime I live hot seat coach someone, I always see things I could have also asked later in questions. One of them is she's like, why do I always attract divorced dads? Why do I always attract divorced dads? A question I could have asked as well, we worked for like 20, 30 minutes together. You can watch that video on YouTube. But another question I could have asked is, well, why are you attracted to divorced dads? Sometimes we say, I attract this. Well, you're also letting this in because you're attracted to it somehow. What about divorced dads is attractive to you? Is where you start to become honest with yourself. And when I was working with this woman, she became aware that she wanted to fix. She had an intention of fixing, of waiting for them to do the work, and then once they did the work, then they could be together, and it was this like project. But also, there's something about divorced dads that's attractive. And when you become aware of that, that's where your power is that you're also part of the equation. You have a choice when you, if when you attract, if you were like, I want to give up attracting divorced dads, how do I do that? Well, you just ask people, if you go on a date with someone, you can, I'm just saying how simple this is. Not that that's like the deeper lesson in the pattern thing to become aware of, but it's very simple. You could just not do that, not choose that, not go on a date with someone that is that. It's simple, but what is the energetic pull that has you attracted to it? Does that make sense? What's the common denominator in all your relationships? Is it them? You are the common denominator. That's where the power is, though. Why am I attracting this? What about this is attractive to me? What does this thing represent to me, and how can I integrate this in my life? Make sense? Let's see. Someone says, what is the line between stop giving Fs even for your life because I strongly feel let go is like giving up and it feels like defeat? Here's the thing. When we're talking about letting go, what you can begin realizing is this thing that we started talking about this live with, which is the question, how do we let go and surrender to the divine when it feels scary and it's going to break our soul? It's not going to break your soul, it's going to shatter the ego. The ego is the one asking the question. And the same way, this question is implying that there are, to stop giving Fs even for your life, will understand that basically what's happening is what's attached is the ego. So when you feel like giving up, it can be the ego that can begin giving up because it thought it had to be in control. What if you allowed yourself to surrender to the divine or God? Then you can let go from a greater sense of self. Do you see? So the line in between that is really the awareness of what is the ego's desire to control and where is their opportunity to surrender to the divine or to God. When you let people have a perspective, when you let people and you don't have an agenda for control, you're more present, you're not attached, you're more magnetic, and you're not buying in that you need to control or you need to give a whole bunch of Fs. And it's not about just not giving Fs. It's about giving Fs about the right things. It's not about not caring. It's about caring about certain things that you choose, that you value. You should care about certain things in your life, for sure. This is the paradox of letting go. People think, oh, just let go, let go. Sometimes letting go can be spiritual bypassing. Sometimes the answer is to actually care and put attention into certain areas of your life. There are things that I very much care about. There are a lot of things in the past I used to care about, I no longer care as much about. And when I began letting go of caring about validation, I started caring more about authenticity and vulnerability. I care about my purpose, my mission. I care about my relationships. I care about them. Doesn't mean I'm attached. Doesn't mean I'm trying to control. But the answer is not that you need to let go and not give an F about anything. No, just choose the things you do care about. Choose the things you put your energy in. Choose the people you pour into. Choose the values you choose to live by. It's a matter of choice and not just being attached because this is something you were attached to since you were a kid. That's the paradox of letting go. Is like, for some people, I think for some people, letting go is also an intimacy block where it's like, rather than needing any intimate connection or intimacy in my life, I'm just going to let go. Just let go, be non-attached. Let go, be non-attached. Let go, be non-attached. And it becomes a mechanism, like a survival mechanism towards relational trauma. Interesting, right? Paradox. There's sides of all of this. Secure attachment is still attachment. It's just a healthier version of attachment than anxious or avoidant. So in the physical life that we're in, we're going to have certain attachments. It's just being aware of what those attachments are, being aware of what the energy is. And not needing to control or have an agenda or be attached to the outcome of things. Well, you can have things you care about. You should have things you care about. You just should choose what those things are. You should choose the things that you care about within yourself. Like from childhood, I had to let go of validation, approval, the fear and doubt that I had from earlier in life. That I had to let go of that and choose courage. You know, I used to not see myself as a hard worker. I used to see myself as lazy. I had a 9-to-5 job, and it was like when I started making daily videos on YouTube, life really changed because I started to also see myself different. It was always inside of me. It was always in the field, you could say, but I wasn't aware of it because I was in my patterns. I was attached to my old patterns and my old story, and I got payoffs from that. I get to be right about reality. I get to stay in victim mode. I have bosses that are controlling and manipulative, and I don't like my job, and it's slow at work because I work in retail. That was my life for years until I took ownership and I chose to see myself as my own boss. I chose to value vulnerability and authenticity over validation and approval. I chose to choose relationships that were energizing rather than draining. So a big part of this is choosing and caring. You should care. You just should care about the things that you choose to care about that mean something to you, instead of agreeing that certain things that mean something to other people have to mean something to you. They don't. I was talking to some friends yesterday about, I have a friend of mine that was saying that she was homeschooled as a kid. And when she went to high school, she went to a public high school eventually, and she was so afraid of kids at school finding out she was homeschooled. So she said that she moved to like the new city or whatever it was so that people didn't know that she was homeschooled for so many years. And what was interesting is there was like a game that was being played subconsciously. Of course, kids want to be accepted growing up. And in high school, it was like, oh, don't know that I was homeschooled. I don't want to be the weird one. And even me, when I was a junior in high school, I didn't have much freedom as a kid until I was about 16, 17 years old. I didn't have much of a social life in high school until I was like basically a senior in high school. The only reason I did senior year of high school was because it was my opportunity to really like have a social life. Because before that, it was like, I didn't have much of that. But I remember there was definitely, in high school, it's like you don't want to be the weird kid that's like sitting by themselves. So we play a game where it's like, who do I have to be to get liked? Who do I have to be to not be weird? We want to be accepted. So we choose, this is a very important thing. Now, what if instead, of course we were kids, we may not have known this, but what if we didn't fear being weird? What if we just owned it? Have you ever met somebody that was pretty weird, but they owned it? You can be weird and not own being weird, or you can be weird and just own it. They're different energies. And then once people see that this person's not attached to what you think, that's even more magnetic. But my point of this is that in the past, we might decide that it's very important to have validation and approval. And that shame may keep us like afraid of what other people will see. I remember when I first started having a social life, there was a time in high school where I would like go sit. I would go in. There was one teacher that would let me like go online inside his office when it was lunch break, because I was afraid of sitting, of that same thing, of sitting, like not knowing where to sit. Where do I fit in at school? Do I fit in with these kids over here, these kids over there? I never really knew. So I would go do that. Now, if I was like trying to hide that, and I was like, I don't want anyone to know that in high school I felt this way. I was a cool kid all the time. I was so cool. Oh my God, I was so cool. I was just a cool kid all the time. But no, if it was like you just own it, yeah. Also, I was awkward for a period of time. I had bad acne in high school. Of course, it's easier to say looking back, but in the moment to admit like, oh, I'm awkward. Not cool. It's easier now because I'm looking back and like, now I don't feel that way anymore. But owning, basically the lesson is owning who you are. Who's to say that like, who's to say that some of these things are really important? It's just because the group society we may choose to believe that. Once again, we're avoiding people thinking something about us in a certain way like that. So I guess the lesson is you should care about things. You should just choose the things that you care about. And a lot of the things that you're attached to now may be things that if you let go of giving an F about, you feel more free. Not only that, but you realize that the only reason you cared so much about it was because you were told you should, or it's societal conditioning that you should, or it's like trying to fit some need of not a love language, validation language. So that's the lesson for today. This is my third day in a row of going live on Instagram. It's been fun. We'll see if I keep doing it. Couple of things going on right now. One, the Full-Time Purpose free virtual live event starts on August 18th. It's going to include breath work, live meditations, hot seat coaching, etc., to help you remove the blocks to going full-time with your purpose. Hearing from other people that are doing it, that are just everyday people that are crushing it and like have gone full-time with their purpose. If you want to check that out, just comment FTP all together, FTP. I'll send you the invite. The London live event is happening on September 26th, 28th in London. I'll be traveling there. You can type London if you want that, or just, you'll see the links in my bio for all of this stuff. Sometimes I say that. This is also going on the YouTube. Yum, yum, yum. Yum, yum, yum. There was an agenda this whole time. I was making a video that's going to also go on YouTube. Oh my God, you're not who I thought you were, Aaron. It's FTP, not FTB. Full-time Purpose. That's what it stands for. Anyways, other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace, much love, and namaste. Talk to you later. If you want to learn step-by-step how to let go and apply exactly what I've been talking about in this Instagram Live, I have another Instagram Live that I did that I also posted on YouTube in HD that you can check out. It's going to be right here. Check this video out next. Learn how to let go, all the nuances of it. It will completely transform your life if you do so. Check it out right here.